So I'd like to now invite all of you to join us as we move into now the marketing and sales part of this virtual conference, specifically around how do you market and sell in a pandemic, in a crisis? How do you do it in the right way, in a sensitive way, in a caring way, in a way that really adds value when a lot of people are struggling, hurting, or not sure what to make of it? So we brought in two experts today, really great leaders here in the Triangle on marketing and sales. And I'm very excited to introduce, first and foremost, Larry. Larry is a super sales professional. You can call a super seasoned sales professional with a history of success at some of the best tech companies. So Larry's worked for companies like Intuit, SageWorks. You might have heard of Pendo, the beautiful unicorn we have here. And now he's director of collegiate sales at Teamworks. So Larry's a very passionate person, always knows how to look at the bright side. He's great with coaching, hitting goals, and really taking us all to our next level. So I want to welcome Larry and thank him for being here. In addition to my other panelists who we have today for you, who's really what I would call a top-notch marketing professional. Now that's Ryan. Ryan is a senior executive with over 17 years of experience, both on marketing and strategy level, from small companies to big companies. And you might have seen some of Ryan's work recently as a VP of marketing with one of the best tech companies in the Triangle that I am a big fan of, which is Cell, doing a biometric sensor, wearable kind of tech space. So we're very excited to have both Larry and Ryan, two amazing top people in the region for marketing and sales, to give their advice to you. Now, most importantly, thank you for being here and listening. We want to make sure your questions get answered today. So we're going to have Larry share just like 5 advice tips for you on how to best sell in this time in a way that's appropriate. We'll have Ryan come in and share a few things about how to market appropriately in this economy. And then I'm going to try to answer your questions. So go ahead and write your questions in the chat box because we really want to make this interactive. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Larry, say a few words, and then we'll give it up for Ryan. Thank you.
Hey, what's going on, Keith? Thank you so much for having me. And this topic, I mean, we all know we're going through some stuff. I appreciate David Gardner's comments to kick us off. And when you think about sales, it's so important to keep the lights on for a business. And I like to always start off with the definition of sales. I'm going to keep this brief. And as Keith said, I actually got 7. So I've got 2 bonus tips for you. But the definition of sales is really, from my perspective, it's playing matchmaker. You're matching your products, your services, your thoughts, ideas with someone else's needs, their wants, their desires, their challenges, hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And if you're able to make that match, that's what we're talking about in terms of sales. So that has never changed. That shouldn't change either pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. Now, what I do want to share is the empathy part. And when I think about empathy, I really think that comes from not being a me monster. It's not about me. It is about my prospect all the time. That's all day, every day. And if I keep that focus on the prospect and what's in it for them, there's a saying, WIFM. That's my favorite radio station. What's in it for me? If you're able to answer that question for your prospects, and I see Ryan smiling over there. He gets it. What's in it? That's what people want to know. Essentially, when you reach out to a prospect via email, via phone call, via text, carrier pigeon, you name it, they want to know what's in it for me. Why are you reaching out to me? Why are you reaching out to me now? And what do you want me to do? Where do we go from here? Now, how do you do that? You got to stay focused on your value. What do you bring to the table? Are you really helping folks during this time, or are you really trying to focus on helping yourself? So that value should be crystal clear, especially right now where people might have time, but we're always busy. Understanding your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Who is that target? But in times like today, I know for our business over at Teamworks, we've had to pivot a little bit. So you've got to have that flexibility. You've got to have that adaptability to make those adjustments as you go about learning. And those are my next 2 tips. How do you learn? You've got to listen. And how do you listen? You got to ask the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you're going to get the right answers and you're going to learn. You're going to figure out what's going on in the lives. You're going to be able to step into the shoes of your future customers, your prospects, I highly recommend that you speak to your current clients. Get as close as you can to your current clients so that you can learn and understand what's going on in their world. I can tell you in today's environment, folks are looking for guidance. They're looking for folks to give them direction in terms of where do I go. I know for us, it's been great because we've been able to really lead and guide our current clients, but also our future clients, also known as prospects, in the direction that they need to be going from a communication standpoint. So I strongly encourage everyone to lead, listen, and learn. Those are the 3 L's. And then the last point that I have is you've got to have fun. I know that it's not a fun time when folks are dying, when we're going through a pandemic, but I can share with you that this is an excellent opportunity to expand your network, get to know people, get to have real conversations where you're learning about them and uncovering, hey, here goes some needs, here goes some challenges, here goes some hopes and dreams of folks that I can really help address. So those are really my 7 key tips. I'm going to keep it brief. I'll come to an end, and I think I'll pass the microphone over to Ryan.
All right. Before we go into Ryan, Larry, I just want to thank you for that. That was wonderful. I love the mustache you got brewing here. I love the family imagery you have in the background about family. Really quick, one quick question, then we'll go to Ryan for his top points. I read a strategy right now that's helping a lot of companies be successful in selling, and that is one of them is to divert your attention from pursuing new logos and knocking on doors and getting new sales, and actually think about the importance of focusing on your existing accounts, to nourishing your existing logos. The reason being is that the reason why companies will choose to go and do business with you in sales is often because of trust. And it's a little harder right now in this pandemic for new companies to discover new solutions and like give that trust. So do you agree? The question is that this is a good time to really nurture and focus more on growing your existing base, or do you still feel it's a good time to go out there and get new logos? Just curious.
I'm going to throw a wrench in it. So I think it's a great time to get close with your existing logos and your clients, which is what we should be doing all the time. And when we're in a great market, it's easy to get lazy. But I'm going to double up and double click on it's an excellent time to establish new relationships. If I have something that can truly help someone, what better time than right now to have the conversation? Now, what we're finding is people might not be in a position. As David said, people are trying to conserve cash, look for ways to cut. But if I have something that can really help them, maybe now, maybe in the future, let's talk about it right now. I mean, when I think about sales, I think about relationships. And how do you create that trust in relationships? It's through dialogue. It's through interaction. It's through me truly understanding what you're faced with. What challenges are you faced with? What are your goals in the future? And what's your current plan to get there? And if I can help you to get there either faster or maybe through a different route, there's no shame in my game to knock on your door, whether physically or metaphorically through the phone, which that 500-pound phone, I'm not scared of it. Let's talk. Let's talk. Phone, email, social. So I agree. Yes, get close to your clients, but perfect time right now to engage with new folks. Thank you, Keith.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And Marlena comments, great comment, Larry, about being a matchmaker. So thank you for that, Larry. All right. Let's shift tables now and welcome Ryan, VP of Marketing at Valencell. Ryan, we're super excited to hear your advice and thoughts for the audience today. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Keith, for having me. And great stuff, Larry. I'm going to echo some of those things and maybe add a little bit here and there. The thing that I keep coming back to is that there is no playbook for this situation. We are truly in an unprecedented situation in terms of at a global scale, shutting down massive parts of the economy, if not entire economies. And so that always gets me, especially in highly uncertain environments like this. I always try to come back to first principles. So I'm going to go through 4 of those first principles that I think are most relevant right now. First one being open and transparent communications. And that certainly applies to internal communications with your team, but also external communications with your customers, your prospects, the market and industry as a whole. And the situation is unique in many ways, but one in particular is that everyone is impacted in some way. Most of it's negative, some of it's positive, as we've heard earlier, but everyone's feeling some form of impact from this. So it's important to be clear with your customers and prospects about how this has impacted your business. If you've got supply chain issues, or delivery timeframes are changing, or service metrics are changing, it's important to get out in front of that and be open and clear in communicating with your customers and prospects around that. But it's also kind of touching on what Larry talked about. It's that opportunity to maintain those open dialogues with your customers and prospects and understand exactly how this situation is impacting their business, their environment. And to the extent you have a relevant product or solution that can help people solve problems directly related to this COVID environment, then do so. But certainly always come at it from the position of helping and adding value and solving problems that people have immediately, and then that people are going to have in a post-COVID world as well. And one other, just since it was mentioned earlier, I would say don't be afraid to show how you're making an impact in other areas that aren't necessarily directly related to your business or your customers' businesses. So if you're helping the community in some way, or your industry in some way, or your team in some way, whether that's making donations or providing some services or products free to healthcare workers, or helping with homeschooling, whatever it might be, don't be afraid to showcase that and tell people exactly what you're doing as a team, and really personalize yourself and your company in this environment. So that's principle number one. Principle number two is always add more value than you receive. Give more than you get. And that's, in this environment, one way to do that is help your customers and prospects navigate this uncharted territory, right? Everybody's trying to figure this out as we go, but this is a real opportunity to be a trusted advisor, a trusted partner to figure out what this new normal looks like together. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is something that I heard Jeff Bezos say one time, and that's someone asked him what the next 5 years or 10 years would look like for his business, and he flipped that around and said, I don't actually focus on what's going to be different. I focus on what is not going to change. And so with Amazon, he said his customers are always going to want lower prices, faster delivery, more of a selection, all of those things that do not change. And I think I've found that to be particularly useful in these highly uncertain or rapidly changing environments, to focus on what are those core principles, what are those foundational elements that are not going to change, and focus on those and how you deliver value in those areas together with your customers and prospects. Third one, always focus on those outcomes that you can help your customers achieve. So it's easy in these chaotic environments to take your eye off the ball and maybe get distracted from what is the job to be done, if you will, by your product or your service. Going back to way back, the old Ted Levitt example of people who are buying drills don't actually want to drill, they want a hole. The drill is just a means to an end to getting a hole in whatever they're drilling. And so the tactics on how you get there and what those tactical elements might look like could and very well might be different in this environment, but don't lose sight of what is that value you're delivering at its core? What's that job your product is being hired to do? And this, of course, means a deep understanding of your customers, their situations, their priorities, their objectives. Back to what Larry touched on, maintaining those open lines of communication and continuing to build those relationships in this uncertain environment. And then that may have product or solution or delivery implications as well, in terms of how you package your offering, how you price it, different distribution channels or mechanisms. All of those things may need to change or at least be reevaluated in what this new normal looks like. And that actually leads to my fourth principle, which is try to be different, not better. It's always better to be different, not just incrementally better in what you're delivering. And in more stable environments, that can actually be harder to try to differentiate and not just be incrementally better. Whatever this new normal looks like in your industry, for your prospects, for your customers, this creates an opportunity to deliver value in a different way, and also possibly create new categories that enable you to be different, not just better. And taking that one step further, this uncertain environment gives us the opportunity to help shape that new normal for our customers, our prospects, and our industry as a whole. Just one example, with our business, where we make the biometric sensor technology that goes into wearable devices, we've seen several of our customers pivoting in this environment to take their devices to become, or try to become, more real-time remote patient monitoring devices for COVID and other illness tracking. And so we're working with them to help them understand what's possible, what's not possible, and kind of shape what that new normal looks like for their business, their product, and how they can deliver value going forward.
Thank you, Ryan. That was wonderful. I appreciate that great marketing, basically some nice best practices. And I like how you say, go back to the first principles, get back to the fundamentals. Thank you for that. All right, we have about 5 minutes for this panel. If there's any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss Ryan a question, and Larry, if you could answer this, and we can conclude the panel that way, and I'll keep an eye out for panel questions. Ryan, just in summary, and then Larry, if you can answer this question as well. People are wondering in this pandemic and crisis, like, how are companies doing? Is sales tanking? Is marketing not working? So what I really want to ask you is more of a brass tacks in the trenches. Ryan, is marketing working for you right now? Is Valencell okay? How do you describe the temperament? And then Larry, I'll toss that for you in terms of selling right now at Teamwork. So maybe Ryan, you can start, and then we'll go to Larry.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so this is no question a tough time for our business and our environment. We started seeing this earlier, much earlier than most, back in the late January, early February timeframe, when China shut down, because of course a lot of our business, and where most all of these wearable devices and really all consumer electronics are made in China. And so we saw a lot of that impact on the supply side earlier in the year, and we're now, as these shelter-in-place or shelter-in-place mechanisms have gone in place, we're starting to see impact on the demand side. What we're trying to do, though, and what we've seen still work from a marketing standpoint, is really help our customers prepare for what that looks like coming out of this environment. And then also how to drive new sales with existing products that are already in the market. So we've got the benefit of, one of the few things people can do in the shelter in place is continue to exercise and work out and get outside and go for a run or exercise in some way. And so we're really pushing user experiences like that in this environment to help drive sales of existing products that are in the market, while helping our customers prepare for new product launches that are coming later this year.
Thank you, Ryan, for that. Good job on being resilient, pivoting and adjusting and staying strong. So Larry, we're going to go to you for the final question, but I'm going to throw a zinger at you, Larry, and I know you can handle it because we just had a question in the chat box, and I want you to answer this, Larry. The question comes from Michael Franklin. It says, given disruptions, what kinds of hidden opportunities are you now seeing for partnering or working with ecosystems? So given the disruptions, what kinds of hidden opportunities are you now seeing working with partners or the ecosystem, Larry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. With chaos comes opportunity. And I mean, in our world, we're professional collegiate athletics, sports, which are all on hold. But the opportunity is, I think I heard someone mention it earlier, people now have time to engage. We're having great conversations. I think that, Ryan, you mentioned it, number one, open and transparent communications. We sell a communication tool for teams, which is so important now that student athletes are spread out across the U.S., across the world. How do you stay in contact with them? How do you keep that culture? So for us, it's been, I wouldn't say great because business has slowed, but our pipeline has never been fuller. We have a busting out pipeline, and once we get word that fall sports, college football is a go, which we're certainly hoping for, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of smiling faces on our team. And we're also preparing for the worst. Let's say college football gets pushed back to the spring. We realize that that's going to hurt, but we're prepared for that situation as well. So as you mentioned, there's no playbook, but the opportunities are there if you listen and you use this space between your ears to think about, hey, how can I create opportunities to solve people's problems? It's kind of magical that when you put it in that kind of that you shift it in that paradigm, how the opportunities present themselves. So we're realizing that it's a tough situation today, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to be ready for it.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And I love the idea you mentioned about listening, and a great story. And you will hear more from this, I believe, from Scott Wingio at Spiffy, but a beautiful story on ABC News featuring Scott Wingio at Spiffy about them going from a car detailing company where they would come up and do your car. Then they pivoted and added oil changes. And now with the pandemic, they saw a dramatic hit in their business, no demand in essence. And then they pivoted to sanitizing, pulling up for on-site sanitizations, and then their business has skyrocketed. Within just 2 weeks, they changed their model, and now they're doing great. So thank you for that, Larry. Good point. All right, we have 3 minutes left. Ryan, I'll toss it back to you for any final thought, and we'll give Larry the final word, and then we'll shift to the next panel. But thank you for being here. Ryan, any final thought?
Yeah, no, I would just echo some of the things Larry said, and want to thank you, Keith and Mark, for putting this event together. It's just been fantastic discussion, very timely, obviously, and look forward to the coming sessions as well.
Thank you, Ryan. A big fan of you and a big fan of Valencell and all you do in the wearable tech space, biometric sensors. Thank you. I guess, Larry, you get the final word. So what say you, Larry?
Yeah, I want to say thank you as well. And I want to say thank you to everyone who joined. That really says a lot that you're looking for an avenue to up-level your skills. I heard from a wise man that in sales, you can either be open in business, close in business, or building your skills. If you're here and listening right now, you're looking to build your skills to learn and grow. So I encourage you, only you can make it happen.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Ryan. Great job on the sales and marketing panel. We'll have this all videotaped and it'll be recorded and posted online coming up soon at startupsummit.io and Startup Summit on Facebook and LinkedIn. So thank you, Larry and Ryan. I hope we can hear all the applauses. Great work. Great work.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
All right. Wonderful.